Okay, so just sort of a cheat sheet for your test. Excuse me, I'm going to sneeze. Sorry about that. So as a general rule of thumb, try to be in standard form. So for a line, we're going to be in y equals mx plus b. And for a quadratic, it will be y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. Again, sometimes with a quadratic, you're asked to be in factored form, and that's fine. But just as a general rule of thumb, always get into standard form. It's much easier to go from there. If you are graphing a system of inequality or just a regular graph and you see that a line is x equals, say, 3, that is a vertical line. Okay, it's a vertical line. And y equals a number is a horizontal line. Okay, so do not make up, if you just have x equals 3, that is not the same as y equals 3x. That's not the same. Okay, you can't just make up an x or make up a y. Okay, so if it's x equals a number, it's a vertical line. If it's a y equals a number, it's a horizontal line. If you have if you're looking for an x-intercept, I ask you for a coordinate of an x-intercept. It will be a number, so say here it will be 2, and then 0, because your y value should be 0 because you're along the x-intercept. Likewise, if I ask you for a y-intercept, your x value will be 0, and then you'll have a number, say 4. Okay, be able to graph lines. It's so important. And again, here you want to be in standard form, or sometimes we call this slope-intercept form. Okay, so you'll have y equals mx plus b, and then you can graph it. Okay, and remember that in this y equals mx plus b, b is your y-intercept. Okay, so it's where it is on the y-axis. Okay, so if my b is -2, that's where I have to start my line from. Okay, it's on the y-intercept. That's very important. Okay, now m is slope. Slope is rise over run. If you have been having trouble finding the right slope, always write this, rise over run. Here's something else I've noticed quite a few students doing. If you have a negative slope, only one of the numbers is negative. Okay, so you can have negative rise, so you can go down and to the right, and so your line goes like this. Or you can have negative run, in which case you go up and to the left. Okay, and again, you'll see that your line will go down. Again, remember that you are standing at the left side of the paper at the top of the line. If you're walking down, it's a negative slope. If you're walking up, it's going to be a positive slope. Okay, if you do down and to the left, what do you get when you have a negative divided by a negative? This will give you a positive, and that's not your slope. Okay, so again, just write this out every time. It will only take you a couple seconds, and it will help you so much. So say my slope was here, if I had y equals 2x plus 3. Okay, my slope is 2 over 1. Okay, if I have my y-intercept, and I'll draw it over here, my y-intercept of 3, I go over 2 up 1. Okay, over 2 up 1, or I can go down 2 over 1. And that's my line. Okay, please practice this if it's not something that you're comfortable with yet. Okay, then when we're talking about continuous data is when x and y equal all real numbers. Okay, so this can be in any of your quadrants, 1, 2, 3, or 4. And we will shade, if you're working with systems of inequalities, you will shade with all real numbers. When you have discrete data, this is when we stipple, and this is when x and y are equal to natural numbers, whole numbers, or integers. Natural and whole numbers are in quadrant 1. Integers can be in any quadrant because they can be positive or negative. You just have to stipple your data. Be descriptive with your solution sets. Go look at the keys for worksheet 6.1 and 6.2. I think maybe just worksheet 6.2, okay? And that's how I want a solution set described. When you're looking at your inequalities, if you have a less than or greater than, you use a dashed line. If you have a less than or equal to or a greater than or equal to, you have a solid line. When you're working with less than or equal to, you will shade or stipple, depending on what kind, below the boundary line, below. But if you have a greater than or equal to, you will shade or stipple above the boundary line. And we're working with optimization problems, so that was the real world problems and like that gas and heating oil problem we did in the notes. Remember your VRCO, variables, restrictions, constraints, and objective. And your objective function is just an equation. You do not plot that. Okay, and you always want to maximize or minimize. Okay, so if you're talking about costs, you want to minimize your costs, but if you're talking about revenue, you want to maximize your revenue. Okay, and then lastly, when we're working with Chapter 7, which was the quadratics, again, here's my standard form of a quadratic, ax squared plus bx plus c. A tells me, does my parabola open up or down? If A is greater than 0, I'm up, I'm positive. If A is less than 0, I'm down. And then you want this degree of 2. If it doesn't have a degree of 2, it is not a quadratic. Okay, the bx, this will be what makes up your roots, and your roots, remember, are r and s, and that's once you factored it out. And then c is your y-intercept. So if I'm here and I have my parabola, this is my y-intercept. Okay, these are my roots, and my a will be negative. Okay. To find my x-axis, I find my roots, I find my r and s, and I take the average. Okay, so it will be over 2. So then I'll get x equals something. Okay, that's to find my x-axis, or my axis of symmetry. To find a, you can choose any point. So as long as it's a point that crosses through an intersection perfectly, okay? So you can choose any point. Usually we will choose the y-intercept. Sometimes you can't see that, and we saw an example of that in the notes. And then you will plug that into your factored form, okay? So you'll choose a point x, y, okay? You put your y here and your x in there, okay? And you solve for a. To get your y-intercept, you can, if you have a graph, you can look at the graph, or you can take your a times r times s, and that will give you your y-intercept. And your vertex is the x value. So if you give a coordinate of your vertex, the x value will always be the same as your axis of symmetry, okay? And then you plot the x into the factored form to find y. So just like in here, since you'll know a, you put your x into there, your axis of symmetry, and then you just solve for y. Okay, so those are things that I would focus on if I were you. Make sure you do your reviews, okay? If you think there might be any sort of chance that you'll want to do corrections on your test, you will have to show me that your reviews are completely done, okay? And then if you do want to do corrections, and I'll talk about all this on Tuesday, you will come see me on Thursday, March 14th. Okay, so on Tuesday, you'll be writing your test from until 9, it will start at 9:30. Please be here by 9:30, but from 9 to 9:30 we'll be doing any sort of review. And please come earlier than that if you need quite a lot of help, so I'll be here for help from about 8:15 on. And you can also come see me Monday after 2:30 if you need any help. So please email me, make sure you do the bonus quiz, and good luck with your studying. Oh, email me if you need help, don't just email me in general. Okay, thanks.